Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Gorodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Welcome to today's public meeting of March 6, 2024. We have a packed agenda of votes and public hearings today, starting with our vote on City of Yes for economic opportunity, a set of zoning changes to help businesses find space and grow, support entrepreneurs and freelancers, boost growing industries, and enable more vibrant streetscapes and commercial corridors. I'll have more to say on that shortly. Moving to votes on site-specific applications, we will next vote on the East Tremont Cluster, a project by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development that would create over 60 income-restricted homes, 20 of them exclusively for seniors, across 3 buildings in the Bronx. Tenants would have fantastic access to open space, living near Crotona Park, Walter Gladwin Park, and several playgrounds. The Commission will also vote on a proposal to turn a parking lot at 341 10th Street, Park Slope, Brooklyn, into 2 mixed-use buildings with around 300 homes, over half of which would be income-restricted. The new buildings would be less than a block away from the F, G, and R train stations along 4th Avenue. Staying in Brooklyn, we'll hold a vote at the site of 396 400 Avenue X in Gravesend, a mixed-use project that would include 45 homes, over 10 of them income-restricted with ground floor retail. The site is a short walk from the Avenue X F train stop. For our votes in Queens, we're starting with Willets Point Phase 2. A thorough plan to create 1,400 income-restricted homes, a 25,000-seat soccer stadium, a new hotel, and nearly 3 acres of open space in an underutilized part of Queens, all steps away from the 7 train. This priority of Mayor Adams, that's being led by the Economic Development Corporation, is expected to create 16,000 jobs, add over $6 billion to New York City's economy, and bolster the area's role as a premier sports hub for New York City. Next, the Commission will hold votes for 2 projects in Astoria. The first at 3011 12th Street would create nearly 90 homes, around 20 of them income-restricted, and ground floor retail. The second at 2301 Steinway Street would create over 20 homes, around a third of them income-restricted, at a site close to the Q101 bus stop and Ditmars playground. Our last three votes for today are on a proposed acquisition of a long-term lease for Community Board 2 at 900 South Avenue in Bloomfield, Staten Island, an authorization for an in-ground pool, screen porch, and outdoor deck at 27 Wetmore Road in Fox Hills, Staten Island, and authorizations being sought by the Department of Design and Construction and the Fire Department for electrical utility upgrades at the Fort Totten Public Park in Queens. Our first public hearing for today is for the site selection and acquisition of 4725 34th Street in Long Island City, Queens, for the city's Department of Transportation. This loft building would be used by around 340 DOT staff members, including sidewalk and concrete inspectors, traffic operations, automated enforcement, and traffic operations fiber optic electricians. Next, the public is welcome to testify on an application by the City Department of Small Business Services on behalf of the Long Island City Business Improvement District to modify the existing plan and expand the bid in Community Districts 1 and 2 of Queens. Speaking of bids, our next hearing is also for a Small Business Services proposal. This one would create the Cypress Hills Fulton Street Business Improvement District in Brooklyn. If approved, the bid would cover 325 businesses in the neighborhood. We will close with public testimony on another Department of Housing Preservation and Development proposal known as Melrose Concourse. These three buildings would contain a total of over 70 income-restricted homes, including for seniors and the formerly homeless. So, lots to do. Big day here at the Commission, so let's get it started. Madam Secretary, I will turn it over to you.
Good morning. This is a City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely through the NYC Engage portal and in person in the CPC hearing room 120 Broadway, Lower Concourse. Today is Wednesday, March 6, 2024. I will now call the roll. Chair Garodnick.
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Present.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Crowell.
Present.
Commissioner Dewick.
Here.
Commissioner Gold is on Zoom. We can see Commissioner Gold. We'll connect the audio a little bit. Commissioner Goodrich?
Yes, here, sorry.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioner Goodrich?
Here.
Commissioner Kermani? Here. Commissioner Marin is also on Zoom.
I am here.
Commissioner Osorio?
Here.
Commissioner Ramprashad?
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the public meeting of Wednesday, February 21st, 2024.
Great, thank you. On the minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 21.
So moved.
Seconded by the Vice Chairman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Great, thank you. Minutes are approved.
Scheduling. Calendar numbers 1 and 2. We have resolutions for adoption scheduling Wednesday, March 20th, 2024, for a public hearing to be held in person in the CPC hearing room 120 Broadway and remotely through the NYC Engage portal.
Great. On the resolutions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Dweck, seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Thank you. The resolution is adopted.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 6. Citywide, calendar numbers 3 and 4. City of Yes for Economic Opportunity and City of Yes for Economic Opportunity M Districts. Calendar number 3, N240010ZRY. Calendar number 4, N240011ZRY. And the matter of applications for zoning text amendments concerning the City of Yes for Economic Opportunity and the City of Yes for Economic Opportunity M Districts for favorable reports as modified on calendar numbers 3 and 4. Chair Garodnick.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. I just want to say a couple of words before I cast my vote this morning. First of all, this is a truly momentous step forward for the future of small businesses in New York City. For too long, New York City's entrepreneurs, mom and pops, and commercial corridors have been held back by outdated zoning rules. Many parts of our zoning resolution for commercial and industrial districts are laughably outdated. They haven't been updated in over 60 years and arbitrarily and needlessly restrain small business growth and innovation. New Yorkers are tired of walking past empty storefronts, and it is a bad look when the city's own rules are preventing us from filling them. City of Yes for Economic Opportunity will bring these rules into the 21st century so they foster vibrant neighborhood corridors and streetscapes, bolster flexibility, update outdated zoning rules, and boost growing businesses across our commercial and industrial sectors. Some examples. In certain commercial corridors, you can easily cite a model car hobby center, but not laser tag. In a home, you can be a music teacher, but not an interior decorator. In many places, bars can host rock bands, but people aren't allowed to dance to the music. You can bake bread, but you can't make salsa on a retail street. With City of Yes for Economic Opportunity, these arbitrary and stifling barriers to success will be a thing of the past. Under these proposed changes, we will say yes to making it easier for small businesses to open and grow and helping to reduce storefront vacancies. Yes to the largest expansion of space available for clean manufacturing in over 60 years by permitting small-scale clean production to locate in commercial areas for the first time, more than doubling the space available for businesses like pottery studios, 3D printers, and apparel makers. Yes to making it easier for life sciences hubs to grow and expand, securing the New York City region's role as the national leader for this fast-growing industry for decades to come. Yes to supporting entrepreneurs by expanding the range of home businesses allowed to create more opportunities in this ecosystem in our residential areas where more than 600,000 New Yorkers work at 76,000 businesses. Yes to creating a path for 265,000 New Yorkers to gain easier access to new corner stores where they could buy a carton of milk or other basic necessities, an option that can't be easily built under today's zoning in these residential areas. Since the formal review process started last October, we have held over 175 community meetings on City of Yes for Economic Opportunity, visiting every community in all 5 boroughs, and have heard lots of positive or constructive feedback. It is our pleasure to have received positive recommendations from 21 community boards, as well as from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens borough presidents. I want to thank these boards and borough presidents for their support. And of the community boards that offered component by component recommendations, 16 of the 18 proposals received at least 50% approval with conditions. Community boards did raise some specific concerns during the process, and in response, a number of changes were made during the City Planning Commission's review. For example, we heard worries that commercial uses on the upper floors of mixed-use buildings could conflict with existing apartments. To address this, the Commission has modified the proposal to ensure that spaces occupied by existing homes could not be converted to upper-floor commercial uses. Concerns were raised about home business expansion, creating quality-of-life issues. So the Commission is clarifying that these businesses must be limited to an individual's dwelling unit and can't occupy residential common areas. Home businesses are also being capped at 1,000 square feet to prevent residential units from being combined for business activities. There are a number of other modifications that the Commission has discussed in prior meetings that we are making to ensure that our regulation and enforcement are as clear and as effective as possible. These changes are welcome, and I would like to thank everyone who has taken the time to provide their input on this plan. Your feedback has been critical in bringing it to this stage. And I will note a special thanks to the community boards here. This was a lot of text. It was complicated. It was hard. We asked you to engage and review 18 individual proposals. And for those of you who did that work, we are deeply appreciative, and we hope that you see that your commentary and your proposal by proposal evaluation really made a difference here. To close, I want to shout out the dedicated city planning staff who have been shepherding this plan through development, referral, and the public review process. This would not have been possible without the tireless work of the Economic Development and Regional Planning team led by Carolyn Grossman-Marr, zoning team led by Frank Rusciala and Chris Hayner, strategic planning led by Laura Smith, community planning and civic engagement led by Lara Merida, communications by Jonathan Patkowski, Intergov, Danielle DeSerbo, and the many, many borough planners who spoke to their community boards about this initiative. Last, but certainly not least, My sincere thanks to our lead planner on this proposal, Matt Waskevitz, for his brilliance, his boundless energy, commitment, creativity, and perseverance in getting us to this point. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, I happily and proudly vote aye.
Vice Chair Duckles.
Thank you. I believe that the zoning code has long been in need of an overhaul, particularly around the governance of storefront businesses, their vacancies, their conversions, et cetera. And I think that component, as well as the others enumerated by the chair, and this initiative will go a long way toward addressing those. I do believe with regard to home-based businesses, though, that there are enforcement challenges that are raised here. And it's my hope and expectation that in voting for this initiative that the Department of Buildings, as well as the Department of Environmental Protection, I think two agencies that would be impacted by enforcement issues in the case of home-based businesses, will address what could be some concerns. But with those reservations and observations noted, I enthusiastically vote yes for this.
Commissioner Benjamin.
I'm troubled by certain aspects of this proposal, particularly by the incursion into our residential districts. I believe our residential districts are to be protected, and that they are to be encouraged. So those parts of the proposal that trouble me most are those that allow not just for increased incursions into the residential uses, but allow for increased incursions with very little regulation of the activity, or indeed even knowledge of the activity that's taking place. I am troubled because many residential buildings have shared systems, both their air exchange systems, their plumbing systems, their water systems, and as such, they're not designed for a user that could operate 24 hours a day, could operate 8 hours, could have, let's say in the case of a barbershop, or which is not currently permitted, they could have many, many patrons with 3 employees. There are issues of safety in having people come into the residential multiple dwelling, particularly for those buildings that don't have door people or don't have a security system that is robust. So I'm troubled with the existing situation that building owners and other residents in the building have no way to know what is going on. And frankly, I don't believe the fire department, the buildings department, DEP have any knowledge of these activities either. So I'm troubled that we want to increase the intensity of such uses. We're increasing the intensity by allowing up to 49% as opposed to the 25% currently, by having a maximum of 1,000 square feet versus the 500 currently, by allowing 3 employees where now we only allow 1, plus the resident or owner of the business. And we're removing any prohibitions on any uses without, it seems to me, really taking into account how those uses and their proliferation might affect other residential tenants in the building. I've made some suggestions, and I am happy to note that both Carolyn and Matt have been very receptive and have met with me more than I'm sure anybody has any desire to. But we don't end up in the same place. And at a minimum, I think we should have some type of registry so that people in the building, as well as the owners, are aware that a business exists in this location, the kind of business that it might be, and as a result, what kinds of things they might be doing, whether it's pouring chemicals down the drain, whether it's garbage that is going out with the residential garbage that should not be. I understand the regulations that if they're a business, they need a commercial corridor, but I know that doesn't happen now. And the answer to that is, in my mind, is not to expand all of these, but to come up with a set of regulations for how we're going to know that these businesses exist, how an owner can guard against unfortunate accidents happening, or if they do, that they're limited to that one apartment that is in fact the business. So my suggestion was also that in terms of regulation, and I know that zoning doesn't, quote, regulate other than the use, is that we do establish some additional regulations that go to the heart of home occupations, particularly those that we're aware may have more noxious impacts. As I said, at a minimum, I would like to see a notification to the owner so that they can also notify other tenants that this is happening in the building or adjacent to their apartment. And I don't have the power to do that. I can only vote on the item that's here today. If there were 18 separate items here today, because there are 18 proposals, I would vote no on that proposal. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we've protected the public in terms of safety in any way. And I would have to vote no. But all of them are combined into one package. And I find things in the package that are useful and desirable. So I am going to cast a vote for yes, with the hope that somewhere along the line, someone takes a look at how these businesses really operate. I don't believe that many of these businesses pay taxes. I don't believe many of them register as businesses with anyone. So I believe they operate in a vacuum, and that troubles me.
Commissioner Sturla.
So I'd like to acknowledge the Adams administration's and this department's leadership, particularly Frank and Carolyn and Matt, the DCP team, who did an amazing job on the important issues in this proposal and in the development of modifications based on the critical public input we received, which really does help to prove how effective the public review process is. Providing flexibility on a whole host of outdated zoning rules will go a long way to reinvigorate our commercial districts, which need it, empower individuals and families to manage their lives at home while balancing work, life scenarios without a commute, and help to provide greater access to things our residents, workers, and visitors need throughout the 5 boroughs. With that said, once the City Council weighs in on this, I do think it's important for all of us to carefully follow the results. How these changes impact our commercial districts and our residential buildings and neighborhoods should be continuously monitored, so the old adage, no good deed, isn't a reality check for all of us. As we know, and we have seen before, one size does not ever fit all, and all of our neighborhoods, regardless of borough, share a certain DNA, but are also quite unique and different. And that's what we love about our city. And the impacts of all of this may be felt differently. And that's certainly true for Staten Island and my other community, Midtown East. So while I support this and I'm excited about some of the possibilities that grow from these changes, I hope that our work on City of Yes economic opportunity doesn't just end today. With that said, I vote aye.
Commissioner Crowell.
Thank you. This action moves New York City's businesses and the potential for community economic development forward in many significant ways. As I know from my many years in public service and working on relieving the burdens that small businesses face with regulation, I can tell you that the city's small businesses to this day still see substantial burdens growing each year. It thwarts entrepreneurship and innovation, and it does not keep pace with the needs of business owners, residents, or consumers. This proposal today represents a major step forward, and the progress envisioned here requires many of our colleague agencies to work thoughtfully and diligently to assess and adapt their regulations and processes to achieve the citywide objective. I understand, as my colleagues here have said today, that there are many challenges with the proposal, but at the same time, I think we need to trust the process, but also ensure that there's accountability through close monitoring of what takes place. With that said, I commit to that monitoring and accountability system, but I enthusiastically vote yes today and look forward to the future.
Commissioner Dewick.
I'd like to associate myself with the comments from I'd like to associate myself with the comments of all my fellow commissioners, both the pros and cons, and I vote yes.
Commissioner Gold.
So I echo the sentiments of the chair on this one. I also certainly have my concerns, as we think about what the other commissioners have said, and would echo some of that. But I'd like to go back to the old mantra of not letting the good be the enemy, or the perfect be the enemy of the good, I should say. So with that, I vote yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
I also have some reservations about the proposal, and I'm going to briefly list them. Commissioner Benjamin actually laid out a lot of my reservations for the home occupations part. As everyone knows, my day job is as a tenants' rights attorney, so I get to hear from New Yorkers about all of the things that's happening with their home. So it's no surprise that the parts of the proposal that I zoomed in the most were related to the home. So I just want to point out and add to Commissioner Benjamin's points that one of the things I see is, for example, Airbnb. That happens inside of the home. It's not in the common areas. But with increased traffic and other people coming into that residence space that the tenants don't know, sometimes it really causes a lot of problems, in addition to the other issues with Airbnb. And so the point about no regulation, not knowing who is coming in, not being specific about those parts, I think are key here. And I do also hope that they are addressed at the next stage, which is the City Council. I will briefly also note, I had a lot of reservations about the upper floor. That's Proposal 5. Specifically, that is where the upper floor of a residential building can be used for commercial purposes. I was happy to speak with the staff later. Carolyn was great, and also note the modifications I think were satisfactory for me, which means that restricting the use so that it wouldn't be an issue of turning what would be residential spaces into commercial. Lastly, I am going to note that another commissioner actually brought this up, and I thought that it was a really salient point, that I wish that this is, of course, the economic opportunity stage of City of Yes, and later we will hear the housing proposal stage, so this isn't it. But for the economic opportunity part, I wish that some of the jobs and some of under the actual occupations that were listed, we're talking about nightlife, amusement, that they were more geared or included working class jobs. So, we have a lot of issues with street vendors, and a lot of people often file complaints about using that parcel of land, sometimes even with taxis and taxi spaces. Those are working class jobs, and I think that it would behoove us to also, it was actually Commissioner Osorio, to actually include those later in this proposal. So my vote is for yes, but obviously with a lot of reservations. as Commissioner Benjamin also noted, and I feel the same, it's a wide proposal with 19, or maybe it's 18, different proposals, and so if we had to vote individually on them, obviously my vote would be for no for some, but because it's a very wide sweeping one, overall I'm voting yes with some reservations, and hopefully there'll be some changes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Thank you. Good morning. And I align myself with many of the comments of my fellow commissioners. I have similar concerns, none that haven't been mentioned, so I'm not going to repeat them. I want to offer a huge congratulations to the department, to Frank and Carolyn and Matt and the whole team. Updating these policies is incredibly complex, going back 60 years. Many of these policies, I want to remind everyone, are historically racist and homophobic. I deeply understand the complexity of community engagement, but also how important it is. So there's so much gratitude to community boards and residents throughout the city. I will say that changing policy alone does not mean guaranteed change in culture or behavior, or compel other agencies or bureaucracy to innovate and change to meet these recommendations. But it is almost impossible to change culture or behavior without the policies or regulations to back up that change. And I think that, for me, is what's most important about this entire package. It's not a monolith. There is much more work ahead, and I think we all must commit to that and continuous community engagement, continuous commitment to uncomfortable and difficult conversations, which is always a part of change and growth. And with that, I vote yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Thank you. So I do agree with a lot of the comments that have been said, but I want to state quite a few that I that I mentioned during our review session. One is that absolutely change is uncomfortable, and this is change that, while folks are concerned with, we know that the city is evolving and we need to evolve with it. We have heard from the department, we have heard positive, negative from the communities, from all communities, and we've also taken those comments and implemented what we could to date. As I mentioned, and Commissioner Crowley emphasized this morning, what is critical is compliance and monitoring in the future. Our job is to make sure that the zoning resolution reflects changes that are needed to reflect the built environment. And there are others like the DOB and the City Council that have their legislative powers to enforce the rules that accompany this proposal. I am very excited to vote yes on this, and I am looking forward to when it begins to get implemented. Thank you.
Commissioner Osorio.
I respectfully vote no, while acknowledging the important work that has been carried out to date. To the department's credit, this discussion has convened many diverse perspectives on the subject. In voting no, I want to clarify that I'm not voting no against all of the proposals, as there are aspects of this that I think are very important. My vote is based on differences of opinion, for the most part, regarding the research on the potential impacts of some of these proposals, which I'm sure would have been addressed and clarified in a full environmental impact statement. Without it, we don't know yet. I commend the department for listening and addressing the many concerns raised by the public and the commission, but I also understand that you cannot address everything at once. Specifically, I want to highlight something that I've mentioned basically every time that we've discussed it, which is that I respectfully disagree with the proposal to transform the M districts, given the amount of research that is still ahead of us at this point. This text amendment should follow and not precede the research, public discussions, and planning that are yet to come, given the legislative requirement to create an industrial development strategic plan for New York City. I commend the department for listening and addressing many of the concerns, but unfortunately, many of them are still unaddressed, and I don't feel fully comfortable supporting this package in its current stage. In closing, I urge the department to provide a detailed response to the public's concerns heard on last-mile facilities. If this concern cannot be addressed now as part of this text amendment, Where can zoning help us address that next? Thank you.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of the comments raised by my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Benjamin, Crowley, Osario, Marin, and I know the zoning resolution was definitely in need of an overhaul since it's been so long, and there are a lot of great things that come out of this proposal. I don't agree with some of them. For example, home occupation, Commissioner Benjamin raised some great points with regards to that. I do have my concerns with regards to the city agency enforcement, specifically DOB and FDNY. Being in a profession that utilizes the zoning resolution on a day-to-day basis, I also concerned about training with DOB and making sure everyone's up to date, because it's pretty much, you got to relearn the zoning at this point. You took out the old book, put a new book in, and I understand there are a lot of other great positive things that come out of this. I also want to thank Matt and Carolyn, because there were a lot of questions I also had that they addressed. So I do want to thank the department for taking the time to address the concerns that we raised as both as the commission, as a body of the commission, and what the community boards gave back in feedback. And, I just also want to acknowledge all the hard work community boards do put in, because I want them to know, we get a package that's 300 pages. There are a lot of reports from every single community board here and I want to thank them, because it's important that they get recognized for the work that they put in. And with that, at the end, because we're voting as a whole 18 proposals package, I'm going to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Favorable reports as modified have been adopted on calendar numbers 3 and 4. Okay. Citywide, calendar number 5, Seeker Type 2 Rule, Kappa, Green Fast Track is laid over. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 6, East Tremont Cluster, NCP, CD6, C240099HAX, and the matter of an application for UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning East Tremont Cluster, NCP. For favorable report, on calendar number 6, Chair Grabnik.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Duick.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 6. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 7, 8, 9, and 10. 341 10th Street rezoning and LSGD special permits. CD6, calendar number 7, C230337 ZMK. Calendar number 8, N230338 ZRK. Calendar number 9, C230339 ZSK. Calendar number 10, C230340 ZSK. And the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments and special permits concerning 341 10th Street rezoning and LSGD special permits. For favorable reports on calendars number 7, 9, and 10, and a favorable report as modified on calendar number 8, Chair Grodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Duick.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 7, 9, and 10, and a favorable report as modified on calendar number 8. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 11 and 12, 396 400 Avenue X rezoning, CD15, calendar number 11, C230381 ZMK, calendar number 12, N230382 ZRK, and the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 396 400 Avenue X rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 11 and 12. Chair Grodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Duick.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 11 and 12. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Willets Point Phase 2, CD7. Calendar number 13, C240092 ZSQ. Calendar number 14, C240094 ZSQ. Calendar number 15, C240095 ZSQ. calendar number 16, N240093 ZRQ, calendar number 17, C240058 MMQ, and the matter of applications for special permit, a zoning text amendment, and city map amendment concerning Willets Point Phase 2. For a favorable report as modified on calendar number 13 and favorable reports on calendar numbers 14, 15, 16, and 17. Chair Garodnick.
Congratulations to everybody who was involved in this project to date. I cast my vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
This is a monumental project and a vision, because it's going to take, obviously some years to accomplish it. But in so doing, it's my hope that the economic tide that this project represents will take with it certainly as many local businesses, minority, women-owned businesses as is possible. It has a tremendous job creation potential, but I hope it inures to the benefit of the local community. I vote yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes, and I would like to associate my comments with that of Vice Chair Knuckles. I think this is a compelling project that has enormous potential, and I hope it reaps incredible benefits for the community where this project will be situated.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes, and also aligning my comments with that of Vice Chair Knuckles.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes, and I also support Vice Chair Knuckles' statement about the need to develop this proposal with principles of social and environmental justice.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
I also vote yes, and also would like to align myself with the statements made by Vice Chair Knuckles. Thank you.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 14, 15, 16, and 17, and as modified on calendar number 13. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 18 and 19, 30, 11, 12th Street rezoning, CD1, calendar number 18, C230126 ZMQ, calendar number 19, N230127 ZRQ, and the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 30, 11, 12th Street rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 18 and 19. Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad. Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 18 and 19. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 20 and 21. 2301 Steinway Street rezoning. CD1, calendar number 20, C230307 ZMQ. Calendar number 21, N230308 ZRQ. And the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 2301 Steinway Street rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 20 and 21. Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 20 and 21. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 22, 900 South Avenue, Staten Island Community Board 2 office space, CD2, and the matter of an application for a notice of intent to acquire office space concerning 900 South Avenue. For a favorable report on calendar number 22, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 22. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 23, CD1, N240057 ZAR, in the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning 27 Wetmore Road for the adoption of calendar number 23. Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell,
Yes.
Commissioner Doak,
Yes.
Commissioner Gold,
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Goodrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar number 23 has been adopted. Borough of Queens, supplemental calendar numbers 1 and 2, Fort Totten Electrical Infrastructure SNAD. CD7, calendar number 1, supplemental calendar. N240214 ZAQ, calendar number 2, N240215 ZAQ. And the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning Fort Totten Electrical Infrastructure SNAD. For the adoption of supplemental calendar numbers 1 and 2, Chair Garodnick,
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin,
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell,
Yes.
Commissioner Doak,
Yes.
Commissioner Gold,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad. Supplemental calendar numbers 1 and 2 have been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 10.
Great. Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for the time and attention on a very extensive voting section of today's agenda. And let's move on to the public hearings. We will have applicants, applicant teams, members of the public. We will invite you to come up and say a few words or be elevated on Zoom to say a few words for 3 minutes. Madam Secretary, let's talk about our first item of the day.
Borough of Queens, calendar number 24, 4725 34th Street Site Selection and Acquisition. CD2, C230, one second, my screen has froze. CD2, C230367 PCQ, public hearing in the matter of an application for a site selection and acquisition concerning 4725 34th Street.
Great. On behalf of the applicant, we have Carrie Lowe, also George Donahue, Deborah Howes, Frank Tomaso, Keys Stahl, and Dorit Blakesley. And they are on Zoom, so when you promote them and whenever they're ready, we will take their commentary for 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Deborah Howes. I'm ready to begin.
We can hear
Great,
you.
thank you. We can hear you perfectly.
Great. And somebody is going to advance the slides when I say next slide.
Yes.
Perfect. Hello, my name is Deborah Howes. I'm going to thank you for allowing the city for us to present here to DOT, for DOT. The last slide that you were looking at is the project site 4734, the hub, and DOT in collaboration with DCAS will be seeking to site select and acquire this privately owned site for a lease duration of 20 years, 320,000 square foot, 4-story building on 120,000 square foot lot in an M1-4 zoning district in the LIC BIZ. 4 units to be located here. And currently DOT is operating under a license agreement. Next slide, please. These are pictures of the site from a few different angles. Next slide, please. DOT does need this new space at the hub because there are 4 DOT units that have been affected by important city priorities. The sidewalk inspection units known as SIM, the citywide concrete crews and inspection units are expanding due to a court mandate that requires the installation or upgrading of pedestrian ramps to current ADA standards at 162,000 street corners throughout the city. And DOT is hiring 440 new staff members to implement these improvements, and 111 new would be assigned to the hub. These are not new, not temporary jobs, as this project is estimated to take 20 years. About 25 of the pedestrian ramps have been completed so far, and DOT is not waiting until the site selection process is complete to start the project. Next slide, please. Two other DOT units have also recently been affected by city priority projects. The Traffic Operations Enforcement Unit is growing to meet the needs of the city's speed camera program. 200 new permanent employees would be located at the proposed development. 16 traffic operation fiber optic electricians will be located from their yard at the 37th Avenue due to the construction of DEP's water tunnel number 3. And all employees reporting here will be new or current employees that have been reported to temporary spaces at least or city-owned. The hub has been identified as a very good location for DOT, well served by public transportation, the city's highway system, and the existing buildings and site are adequately sized for DOT and would require minimal changes. Next slide, please. The slide shows the project site would occupy the ground and mezzanine floors of the building, about 155,000 square feet, 20,000 of exterior space, not displacing any businesses in the building. DOT is currently occupying the space under a license agreement, and the space was previously vacant. Next slide, please. DOT and DCAS will be exploring energy efficiency and sustainability retrofits. The community board provided feedback that shade trees would be desirable, and the landlord has already put in a request to parks for additional tree plantings, and DOT will be following up. Next slide, please. The project did receive a finding of no significant impacts.
Time.
Thank you. Was there more to your presentation here that you're not getting to?
Yeah, well, it's on this slide that we received. There's no significant impacts, no traffic impacts, no parking will be impacted. And we did receive a FONSI. Just that, so I sort of raced through that end.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let me see if there are questions for you from the panel. Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your being here with us, and I am going to see if there are any members of the public wishing to be heard on calendar number 24. There are none, so we will close the hearing on calendar number 24. Ms. House, thank you very much, and we will move on to the next item on our agenda. Madam Secretary.
Borough of Queens, calendar number 25, Long Island City bid expansion, CDs 1 and 2 in 240267 BDQ, public hearing, and the matter of an application for a business improvement district expansion concerning LIC bid expansion.
Great. Thank you very much. We have Calvin Brown to present. Great, there he is. Welcome. Good to see you. All right. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and get started. Happy to have you here.
See, I'm out of touch. Haven't been here in a while. Good morning, Chair Garodnick and Commissioners. I'm Calvin T. Brown. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Neighborhood Development at the Department of Small Business Services, and I'm here to testify on behalf of the agency in support of the extension of the Long Island City Business Improvement District in Queens. At SBS, we are working hard to open up the doors for New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, focusing on creating stronger jobs, stronger businesses, connecting New Yorkers to good jobs, and fostering thriving neighborhoods. We believe that the vitality of the city's commercial corridors is a key part of achieving this goal, and bids have been valuable and proven partners in small businesses and business support, neighborhood revitalization, and economic development across the 5 boroughs. City services, which by law cannot be reduced because of the extension or the creation of a bid, are supplemental to the bid's delivery of services and improvements in the respective districts. In addition to our role of overseeing and supporting the city network of over 70-plus bids, SBS supervises the bid expansion process, serving as an advisor and resource for neighborhoods interested in expanding bids. We are careful to ensure that each steering committee we work with adheres to our planning, policies, and process, solicit robust community input, and performs extensive outreach and collect and demonstrate broad-based support across all stakeholders. Moreover, as we are cognizant of the unique nature of each community we assist and aim to empower local stakeholders to make demonstrations on the proposed services, boundaries, and budget size, and the best best suits the community's needs, appetite, and ability to pay assessments. While we always impart strong planning principles and share our best practices across the bid network, we are working with bids, formation, and expansion efforts. We recognize that the power and the effectiveness of bids rest in the unmatched understanding of the local needs and issues. The Long Island City bid seeks approval of expansion in two areas, the industrial business zone and commercial corridor, parallel to their current bid boundaries. The bid started collaboration with the IBZ in 2016 and formally began expansion efforts in both areas in early 2022. The efforts began later in that year, concurrently but separately, to ensure that each expansion area garnered the required support levels. There are numerous benefits to expansion of the Long Island City bid. Throughout the year, Long Island City has experienced tremendous growth, not only in population, but in the labor market, becoming recognized as a central business district. The proposed expansion will capture the recently developed commercial corridors in addition to the industrial area of Long Island City. Thank you.
I'd like to hear a little bit more on that. Why don't you say what you were about the context of the partnership expansion in the context of Long Island City. I don't know if you had more there.
That was it.
That was it?
That was it.
Perfect. So then the clock stopped just at the right moment. Okay, I have a couple questions for you. First of all, we all are cognizant of how much work goes into bringing you all to standing up here before the City Planning Commission, so I will note that, and congratulations to getting to this point. Just some general questions from me about the context, big picture about the number of bids in the city, how this compares in size. So can you give us a number of what the total is in New York City today?
So we're currently at 75 bids. We had a few consolidations of bids, so we're currently at 75.
And when SBS thinks about the expansion of a business improvement district, or as we have before us today, and it may be just the converse question about absorbing two bids into one. But tell us a little bit about how the agency thinks about when it makes sense to expand existing bid territory as opposed to new separate entities.
Yeah, so we definitely work with the bids to look at the geography, especially where they're proposing expansion. We ask them to do the necessary outreach to make sure that it makes sense. We also make sure that there's commercial continuity in terms of the expansion area that they're looking for, and making sure that there's support, especially from their electeds in those areas, as well as the small businesses that they would be expanding to. Long Island City had the opportunity of receiving one of our grants that gave them funding to do this sort of outreach, this research outside of their bid boundaries. So we had a small business grant, a small business support grant that allowed bids and new formations to do outreach. They had resources to, go into these areas that expanded outside of their bid boundaries to engage those stakeholders around bid expansion.
Tell us a little bit about the response from businesses to the opportunity to be added into an expanded territory.
So with any expansion, they have to go through the process of a new formation. They have to form a steering committee. They have to engage the stakeholders. They have to have the necessary meetings about what type of services that will be provided, what that assessment will cost, how it would impact those stakeholders. Long Island City partnership is here. They can explain, in detail what that process was like. But from their reporting out to us, and we have members of our team that sit in all of these steering committee meetings just to make sure that the information is transparent and is aligned with what our agency policy is when we do these expansions. And the feedback had been great. They received one opposition in one of the sub-districts, but otherwise all of their support ballots came back in support.
Great. Thank you very much. Let me go to Commissioner Benjamin and then Commissioner Osorio.
Hi, thank you for being here, Mr. Brown. I had a question. I hope it was conveyed to you. It's not just about the Long Island City. It's about the proposed budget, both in comparing, since you have two items, there are two bids on for today, in comparing the budgets that they propose The Long Island City budget for administrative expenses is $159,000. And it has the sub areas, that has a lot more area, but it's adding all of the administrative costs from each one of the sub areas up versus the Cypress Hill Fulton bid, who have the one area that's fairly limited. And their administrative expense budget is $160,000. And I was wondering if you could explain how you look at the budget requests, because the activities that each one seems to be doing seem to be similar, although my colleague warned me yesterday that the Long Island City bid may have more contracts that do the administration, that it's not coming under as a personal service administrative item.
That, and I could definitely look back at it, but to the Cypress Hills proposed bid is a new bid, and there's going to be additional administrative costs that's associated with a startup. So that can be the reason. We can definitely look at it and just see, why their administrative cost is that high or comparable to Long Island City. But
and also because the total budget was only $400 and something thousand, so 1/3 of their budget is going to administration, which
makes sense that it would for a startup. There's a lot of once a bid is legislated, they have to create the DMA, which is the District Management Association. We conflate bid and the DMA, which the DMA is what operates within the bid boundaries that's legislated. So they have to create the DMA. They have to go out there, get contracts. So there could be a higher administrative cost that's associated with it, but I have to look deeper in, and we can definitely follow up with the commission.
Okay, and does ONED and SBS look at the budget and discuss those budgetary items as the plan is being put forward and on a yearly basis ongoing, or is that really strictly the province of the district association once it's formed, and that's the only approval of the budget?
It is. So we look at the budget, but this is, once again, it's community driven by the stakeholders. They come up with the budget based on the services that they need. We do provide some feedback, but these are things that they vote on. And then to your point, once the bid is actually formed and then they have a board of directors, they then go through what they feel is a necessary budget. There's a number of bids that do not even build up to where they're able to. They may have a certain assessment level, but they don't even actually have budgets that are at that cap.
And what happens with any monies that may not be spent during the year by the bid? Is it rolled over into the next year? Since the city collects the tax money, do they not disperse it to the bid? How does that work?
They can roll it over, or they can reallocate it. They have a budget process that they have to provide to us at the end of every fiscal year, June 30th. So we get a sense of how they're using their budgets, but sometimes throughout the year, they may reallocate, unspent funds in certain supplemental areas to other areas that may need additional funds.
Okay, I really appreciate that.
And we'll
I'd like to follow up with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Osorio?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for being here. I have a quick question. I thought that the materials that we received and your presentation was really interesting as this relates to the relationship between the bid, the proposed expansion, and the IBC. And so I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about how do we anticipate, or how do we address, rather, the potential impacts on the proposed expansion on industrial businesses? That one, given the overlap between these two geographies, but two, given kind of the diversity of owners and tenants of industrial space. I'm specifically thinking on sort of these large, very important film-related tenants in the area, as compared to smaller businesses that may need to sort of or that may require special assistance. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about sort of how do you anticipate you would be able to mitigate the impacts on small industrial businesses, given that.
Well, I mean, the bid is here. They can definitely expand on that. But one thing that they did that we did have these concerns and we wanted to understand. One thing that they did that I thought was unique is they had two separate steering committees. So they focus on the bid expansion that's outside of the IBZ, and then they had discussions within the IBZ so that they can really, understand those challenges and the concerns of any of those stakeholders that will be impacted by this expansion. So I know the bid can, provide additional context on what those conversations and discussions were like, and, some of the things that they highlighted to those stakeholders about the benefits of expanding into the IBZ.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I also just, if I can follow up really quickly, can you share, just generally speaking, what services, do you provide to those businesses?
So, SBS. So we do have a division that focuses on IBZs. It's not within my division, and they provide business outreach. But just in general, SBS provides a number of services to any businesses, whether industrial or small businesses. We have NYC Best Compliance. So if there's any concerns that those businesses are facing, whether it's trying to access funding, we have resources where we can direct them to. We have a new web site where it's called Fund Finder that can help them seek additional capital. If they have in support about like compliance issues, we have compliance advisors who can go out and walk them through certain things that they should be aware of so that they can avoid any sort of fines, even if it's related to the public realm side. So there's a whole suite of services that SBS provides to businesses broadly, and then working with our bid partners if they're elevating any concerns that they're seeing that the businesses within their district are having, even if they don't fall under SBS purview, we work with our agency partners to sort of bring them to the table. We have monthly bid calls where, bids are able to sort of elevate any concerns that they have. And if it's relating to one agency, we'll bring that agency in and they can speak directly to the bid network about some of the concerns that their stakeholders are having.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if I may ask, if it's possible to maybe share with us some of that information in more detail. Both I thought was very interesting, the general resources that you provide, but I'm specifically interested in the support that is provided specifically on the IBC. Okay. So the other
yes,
office
we can definitely get
Thank
that
you so much.
information.
That would be great.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, great. Mr. Brown, thank you again. Good to see you. Let's call up next Gretchen Werwace of Werwace Properties, to be followed by Laura Rothrock, who is here in the room.
Hi, everybody. Hi, thank you, Commissioner, and members of the Planning Committee. My name is Gretchen Werwace, and I'm here on behalf of my family's company, Werwace Properties, in support of the Long Island City Business Improvement District expansion. Werwace Properties and its related companies has been in the business of owning and managing commercial properties in Long Island City and Astoria for over 100 years. I'm part of the fourth generation of this business, my great-grandfather, who had the original paving contract for the Queensboro Bridge, having founded it. Werwace Properties has been an active member of the LIC bid since its inception in 2005, almost 20 years ago, and we own and manage 2 properties on Jackson Avenue in the current bid. I'm also a member of the steering committees of both the East and West expansion. We've also been actively involved with a working group in the IBZ in Long Island City, which area overlaps with the proposed expansion areas as discussed by the Commissioner or the SBS person who testified. This working group has privately funded a staff member to advocate for quality of life issues in the area, which has been helpful, but it's been clear that direct services are needed. We own 5 properties in the proposed bid expansion areas, 6 in the East expansion area and 3 in the West expansion area. These properties represent the full range of uses. They're leased by tenants engaged in manufacturing, storage, film production, retail, offices, distribution, and a kitchen commissary. One of the properties, a former parking lot, is now a residential development site with accessory parking. The tenants of our properties have come to Long Island City because of the great transportation, access to Manhattan, Long Island, Brooklyn, and the airports, and they've come to Long Island City because it's a vibrant, mixed-use neighborhood. But the neighborhood has changed a lot in the past 5 years. Increase in pedestrian traffic, more commercial businesses, more visitors and investors coming to the neighborhood, more vehicular traffic, which causes the blocking of loading docks and driveways and disrupting industrial business use. The addition of commercial businesses, residential buildings, and shelters have meant there are a lot more people in the area, which have a lot of positives for the neighborhood, but also causes quality of life issues. There are a great number of city and state agency-owned properties in Long Island City, and the maintenance of these areas is often overlooked and requires a lot of effort to connect with the various responsible agencies to get some attention. The current level of service and attention to cleanliness, safety, and care doesn't match the need. Trash, litter, graffiti, and overgrown weeds and trees leading to safety and rodent issues are all over the neighborhood. The bid will work to clean up all of these issues directly and will have staff members walking the neighborhood to timely identify and address issues. The bid will work with the city and state agencies to ensure that their owned properties are properly and safely maintained. From our opinion, the cost of this is well worth the impact that the bid will bring to the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. I'm next going to call Laura Rothrock, who may have some things to say about this particular bid. Welcome.
Hello. Good morning, Chair Gorodnick and Commissioners. My name is Laura Rothrock, and I'm the President of the Long Island City Partnership and Executive Director of the LIC bid. And thank you for your consideration on the bid expansion proposal and the opportunity to speak today. The Long Island City bid was created in 2005 and expanded in 2017, creating 2 sub-districts with separate assessment budgets and formulas, but it acts as one bid. The current bid service area is along Jackson Avenue, Queens Plaza, 44th Drive, and Vernon Boulevard. The bid provides supplemental services such as sanitation, horticulture, and beautification. The bid also leverages the work of the LIC partnership, which keeps the bid's administrative costs low, which is one of the reasons why our administrative costs are so low, because it allows us to tap into the business assistance and marketing efforts of the partnership. The Long Island City is the fastest growing neighborhood in New York City, both by population and by jobs. With an increase in foot traffic in the neighborhood, even during the pandemic, there was an increase in foot traffic. We've heard from stakeholders outside of the current bid boundaries about the need for services on additional blocks in the neighborhood. The plan that we are presenting today is the culmination of 3 years of feasibility studies, needs assessments, a massive outreach campaign, and dozens of steering committee, community board, and public meetings. Our proposed bid expansion would add additional lots to the north and south subdistricts and add on an east subdistrict to the area east of Sunnyside Yards, which is in the IBZ. And we're proposing that the north and south subdistrict expansion area have the same level of service and assessment formula as the current bid, but there will be some reduced rates that we're proposing on some of the side streets that require a lower level of service while still maintaining the same level of quality. We're proposing an east subdistrict that will have a budget focused on sanitation and will have a unique assessment formula due to the industrial nature of the district. We've heard from stakeholders in this area about the need for targeted services, as many of the industries located here are attracting more workers who are walking to the district as they commute. These industries include life science, film and television, makerspace, furniture manufacturing, traditional office space, in addition to the more traditional industrial businesses. Stakeholders in this subdistrict formed a working group back in 2016 and provided funding for a staff member to advocate for quality of life issues and do outreach in the neighborhood. The bid formation grant provided by SBS has helped us keep this position funded, but the expanded bid would allow us to address this area on a more consistent basis. Overall, the bid will expand its budget to just over $2 million and maintain a low assessment rate while still addressing the needs of the rapidly growing neighborhood. After our mailings, public meetings, presentations to the community board, email outreach, phone calls, Zooms, going door to door, social media posts, signage in the neighborhood, newsletters, and press articles, we've received broad-based support from the business and property owners of different sizes, as well as residents and nonprofit institutions. So again, we thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much. Mine is it just relates to the thought process on expanding 2 parts and creating a new one. If you could just say a little bit more about what makes that the right answer, as opposed to, say, expanding existing parts into the area, which would, I guess, now be the east subdistrict.
Yes.
Can you say a little more on that?
Yeah. So when the bid was created in 2005, it was created the north subdistrict. And when it expanded in 2017, we created the south subdistrict because the character of the south subdistrict along Vernon Boulevard in particular was lower density. There were different needs. So the stakeholders at this time decided to have these 2 separate subdistricts so that they could have separate assessment formulas, separate budgets, but then we would act as all as one bid because there's economies of scale, creating one organization versus multiple organizations that are neighboring. When we began this process to expand the bid, the East Subdistrict, which is what we're calling now, which if this bid was expanded would be a separate subdistrict, because it's an industrial area, it has a separate set of needs. So the sanitation services is really the key. We're not planning to do the hanging baskets and some of the horticulture programs that we do in the more residential mixed-use neighborhood. And also the assessment formula is also, we're proposing a different assessment formula as well, because to reflect the industrial nature of the character of the district. And so that's the reasoning behind having this separate sub-district.
Got it. Thank you. Commissioner Osorio?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your testimony. I have two quick questions. One is pretty straightforward, which is there a map of existing businesses in the IBC or within the part of your district that you can share with us, just to understand a little more how many of them, what types of businesses, pretty much sort of like the information that you described, but just to understand that spatially? Is that possible?
Yeah, so we actually are a industrial business service provider, so this is sort of outside of the bid. We're an IBSP, we're part of the Industrial Jobs Coalition, so we have a lot of data about the IBZ, about the businesses there. The IBC is larger than just the bid expansion proposed boundaries, but yes, we do, and we have staff that solely focus their time on the IBZ.
Thank you. If you can share that data, I would greatly appreciate it. Which leads to my second question, which is I'm wondering if you can help us understand a little bit how this expansion relates to the Sunnyside Yards master plan. Like, can you help us understand a little bit, sort of like big picture, long term, how do they connect?
Yes. So the expansion is really separate from the Sunnyside Yards master plan. So we're not really contemplating the plan as part of the expansion. The bridges that go over Sunnyside Yards would be cleaned as part of this bid expansion, because there is more and more foot traffic on the bridges going across the yards, and there's a need to service that area. But other than that, it's totally separate from any Sunnyside Yards master plan.
Thank you. I see your point. I'm asking that because, given the amount of planning and public participation that went into creating that master plan, and the fact that, the IBC in its sort of like complexity is very much part of the Sunnyside Yards expansion plan, I encourage you to think about sort of like how, especially the part of the bid expansion that has to do with the IBC relates to this larger picture. I don't know if there's anything that you could add in that or follow up with us on.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a number of efforts planning in Long Island City, as you're probably aware, throughout the years. And right now, there's actually a one LIC plan, which is really in the preliminary stages. But our bid expansion, we've contemplated this even before that was proposed. So, but the flexibility of a bid is that if there is more density in the future that comes out of some of these planning decisions or land use changes in the future, we'll be able to adapt the bid. And that really is a reflection on why the bid has grown over the years from 2005 to 2017, and then now we're seeking an expansion again, is because bids really follow development and density. It's really not the other way around. So you may see us back here at some point if there is an increase in density, years down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the addressing the question. I mean, that's what you're laying out is especially why I'm asking this. Because you have the two sort of like bids in one, and there is such an important industrial component in there who's going to be subject to the same land use sort of like dynamics that we are looking for. Let's say, then we need to anticipate that directly. So that's why I'm asking that. But I appreciate your response, and if there's anything else that you can add in writing, I would really appreciate that.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, Ms. Rothrock, thank you very much. I don't see more questions for you. We appreciate your being with us. Let me turn next to Matthias Kessler on Zoom, to be followed by Anthony Everard, also on Zoom.
Matthias, you should be able to unmute in Zoom.
Yeah. Hey, how are you? Matthias Kessler from Hunters Point Studios. Thanks for having me on this panel. We are a co-working space located on 21st Street and Barton Avenue. We occupy currently 14,000 square foot. We're planning to expand mid-year to another 10,000 square foot. For us, the bid is super important. We have multiple issues, especially with women-run businesses. We can't really kind of have them in our co-working space because of security issues. That is one. The Borden Avenue, there's no proper sidewalk to walk, and and even more the 21st Bridge, the lighting issues, the trash, the whole thing is not very safe and secure. So for us, that's a big loss of business. Not having any female-run businesses that we can host in our co-working space. That has been very tough for us to grow the business. Also, the look and style of the whole area is for us turning a lot of clients for us away, as we mainly in the creative business, having a lot of people from video editing to design to flowers to a lot of small businesses. We have up to 60 small businesses currently hosting in our co-working space. For us, no action is bad. Will really lower our opportunities for the next 10 years. The bid will add a lot of services that will make notable changes and will definitely drive a lot of more small businesses to us and to our building. The connectivity through Long Island City to network and partnership is super important for us. And we would love for the bid to go forward. And we've been in contact with Long Island City Partnership and sort of like had a group of people coming to our co-working space. We had tours, sort of like we are engaged in the process from the beginning on. Any questions?
Great. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Let us move on to Anthony Everard, to be followed by Mark Gregorio. Thank you, Mr. Kessler.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Hi, thank you so much for giving me and organization Court 16 a voice in this conversation. We are a private indoor tennis and pickleball facility based in New York City. We have 3 locations. The Long Island City location has been in business for 6 years. The LICP team has been instrumental in getting us to open our second club in Long Island City. We have, thanks to their team, we've been able to conduct incredible research that validated that LIC was a good area for us to grow a business and to invest. We leased the building for about 4 years, and thanks to many great support of LICP team, we've been able to qualify for a mortgage and acquire the building from a legacy landlord who wanted to retire last year. In the last couple of years, I guess pretty much since the pandemic, we located on 21st Street and Queens Plaza South. We've been suffering from a lot of theft, petty theft, cars being broken. We're servicing primarily families. We have programs every week also for about 50 adults who are visually impaired. That's completely funded by Court 16. We work with different schools. We're about 4 or 5 different after-school programs. So we have schools coming with their school bus, either during the day or after school for sporting activities. So we're pretty involved in the community. And the last few years, we've been really suffering from, a lack of sense of safety in the area that we didn't really have between 2017 and 2020. We've had about last year, in 2023, we had about 14 cars parked outside being broken into during the course of the year. And every time, thanks to LICP, we've been able to sort of like get in touch with the right people at the NYPD, look at the cameras together, try to kind of address, without necessarily any any clear resolution. So having this business improvement district extension is really going to help us to maintain a little bit more of a clean presentation, as the gentleman just mentioned before me. Enhance the sense of safety for the schools when they're outside and there's no major debris or encampment under the bridge, which, you know, are a bit unsafe for people who come to your place of business. We started the business with 3 full-time employees. Now we have about 15 full-time and roughly 7 to 9 part-time, a little bit more during the summer. So you guys get an idea, you know, with small business, but growing, investing in LIC, and we're very grateful for everyone's time and consideration in the extension of the bid.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's move on to Mark Gregorio, to be followed by Patricia Dunphy, and that's all I have signed up presently from members of the public wishing to be heard on calendar number 25. So if you do wish to be heard on this item, now's a good time for you to sign up so we can make sure we get you in. Okay. Thank you. Is Mr. Gregorio with us?
Mark, you should be able to unmute.
I am unmuted. Can everyone hear me?
We certainly can.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, and also members of the Planning Commission. My name is Mark Gregorio. I'm the owner and operator of a large independent elevator installation, maintenance, and repair business. We relocated to Long Island City 11 years ago. I'm in the factory building at 3030 47th Avenue. And we have approximately 300 team members who commute in and out on a daily basis, many of them riding either the Long Island Railroad, the subways through Court Square, or the number 7 train to, I guess, 30th Street, and they'll walk from there. So I'm very much in favor, as are the folks in my company, of the bid expansion to cover our area. Many of us walk across the Sunnyside Yards or around the Sunnyside Yards. I think that the level of sanitation, snow removal would be greatly enhanced. Security, lighting, trash removal, etc., is something that we all look forward to. I have been operating this business in the city for over 30 years, and I've seen business improvement districts through areas we've been working for decades, such as 23rd Street, 34th Street, Times Square, Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn, Court Street in Brooklyn. I can go on and on. I feel it's very beneficial, and I don't need 3 minutes to say that over and over again. So I thank you all for considering this. Laura and her team has done a very good job so far in pushing this forward, and I at least hope to see it come to fruition. And I would thank you all.
Great, thank you. Stay with us for a second. We have a question for you from Commissioner Osorio.
Certainly.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for taking the time to testify today. We appreciate that. Can you share with us where your workers live? What, more or less, what percentage of your workers live in the community?
Within the community of Long Island City, very few, but within the 5 boroughs, substantially 25% of my employees are riding New York City subway trains into Long Island City to come to work. In the community, possibly 5%. Long Island City has a lack of affordable housing, unfortunately. So we have not too many directly in the area. Many riding subways.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And and you already laid out which transportation route they use, but can you briefly, for those that live in New York City, maybe list a couple or the most important neighborhoods just so that we get an idea of where they are, where they live?
All 5 boroughs. I have people coming from Staten Island. I have people coming from the Bronx, Brooklyn, and the Manhattan, all commuting into Long Island City. So we reversed. We were in Manhattan for 20 years on the west side. And as Hudson Yards became developed, we are essentially an installation, maintenance, repair, and have a factory facility. So we moved to Long Island City for, I guess, affordable rent for us, really. 90% of our staff stayed. They like to be in Long Island City. 30 years ago, in the elevator business, Long Island City was basically an industrial area and was home to a lot of our own machine shops and factories, and the area has changed dramatically. With the increase in number of schools, the number of residents now, the development. I have worked myself on new properties for Rock Rose Development, GF Cornerstone, and where Weiss, I did see Gretchen here speaking. I did the elevators in her building, actually, that went up on Court Square. And I think it's wonderful what's happening in the neighborhood, and we just need to keep pace with the cleanliness again, and level of safety, security, and just community involvement.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Gregorio. We're next going to call Patricia Dunphy as our last member of the public for the day on calendar 25.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, great. So I'm Patricia Dunphy. I work with Rock Rose Development Corp., and I am also chair of the Long Island City Partnership. Rock Rose Development has 5 properties in the north-south expansion, along with another number of other properties in the current bid. We have mixed-use residential and some fully commercial properties. The neighborhood has grown tremendously, as we all know, in the past 10 years. We have thousands of apartments and say 3 times that number of residents in the buildings. And we've also made a really concerted effort to curate and bring in a lot of really amazing retail. They all need us to take care of the streets and everything else. Of course, we clean around our own buildings, but we can't control the streets that are outside of our own blocks. And so the foot traffic and the retail activity really needs some consistent services. We need everyday sanitation services, and we need some advocacy and connection to the city's agencies around the public safety and the quality of life. Of course, many of the stores have experienced quite a bit of problems with quality of life issues. We really appreciate the things that the bid has done so far in terms of beautification efforts and placemaking where our buildings are in the bid. But once we get outside of that area, the garbage on the streets, the sidewalk, the lack of lighting, under the bridge overpasses, these conditions really affect the foot traffic as people walk to the area, particularly for us, the area from Queens Plaza over to Jackson Avenue. And there's more development going on, as we all know, and it's just an amazing area, and we just don't want these things to really fall by the wayside. And it's sad when you see some of the streets, how they look. So as a member of the steering committee, we've worked closely with the partnership to create this plan and for the boundaries that we hope will fit in and work. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. And we thank you for all of your efforts on behalf of the Long Island City Partnership, to you and the entire board and team doing that important work. Thank you, Ms. Dunphy. With that, we're going to close the hearing on calendar number 25, and we're going to move to the next item before us today. Madam Secretary, I have a feeling we are going to be thematically connected here between calendar 25 and 26. What's next?
Borough Brooklyn, calendar number 26, Cypress Hills Fulton bid formation, CD5 N240266BDK. Public hearing on the matter of an application for a business improvement district concerning Cypress Hills Fulton bid formation.
Great. Do you think Calvin Brown might be around to tell us a little bit about this one? Mr. Brown, welcome back.
Great to be back. All right. Good morning, Chair. Once again, I'm here on behalf of SBS in support of a proposed Cypress Hill Fulton Business Improvement District in Brooklyn. As I stated before, SBS, we have our mission, which is to create stronger businesses, connect New Yorkers to great jobs, and to foster thriving neighborhoods. We believe in the vitality of cities' commercial corridors is a key part of achieving this goal, and bids have been our valuable and proven partners in the success of this. Bids provide supplemental services and improve their respective districts. In addition to our oversight role that we play to the 70-plus bids throughout New York City, SBS supervise the bid formation process, we serve as advisors and resource for the communities that are interested in developing these business improvement districts. And we carefully ensure that each of the steering committees work to adhere to our planning process, our policies, and solicit robust community input and perform extensive outreach to collect and demonstrate broad-based support across all stakeholders. As part of this process, especially for new bid formation, we want to make sure that we are empowering stakeholders to think and determine what those proposed services are, the boundaries, the budget size, which best suits the community needs and appetite and ability to pay the assessments. While we always impart strong planning principles to share our data for best practices across the bid network, when these formations are done, we recognize that the most powerful and effectiveness does reside in the bids or the stakeholders' unmatched understanding of the local needs and issues. The Cypress Hills Fulton bid formation effort originated out of a steering committee of community stakeholders, including 8 property owners, 4 commercial tenants, and 2 residents. The group held numerous meetings and consultations with local stakeholders throughout the planning and outreach phase. After an extensive outreach effort by the steering committee, SBS determined that the documented support among all stakeholder groups, 50% of the area's total assessed value, including 48% of the commercial tenants signing in favor, was sufficient to submit an application to the Department of City Planning. Levels of support and response rates for the proposed Cypress Hill Fulton bid are in line with other recent bid formation efforts approved by the Commission and the City Council. The proposed Cypress Hills Fulton bid would be the 23rd bid in Brooklyn. It has met SBS prerequisites for bid formation, and we believe that the bid will improve business conditions and the quality of life in this area. Therefore, SBS supports the establishment of the Cypress Hills Fulton bid. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brown. We appreciate it. Let's move on to members of the public who are here to testify on this item, starting with Lowell Hirschberger, be followed by Chief Amser and then Juan Diaz. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the City Planning Commission. I'm Lowell Hirschberger, the Senior Staff Member of Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation that has served to support the businesses and property owners in our community as they have worked to form a business improvement district. I think I was at every one of those 46 steering committee meetings that we've had in this process, or nearly everyone. My team, along with the Cypress Hills Fulton Bid Steering Committee, the co-chairs, which are here today, conducted this bid development process from its beginning just before the pandemic. We're also grateful for the support of Perch Advisors and the Department of Small Business Services, who have been incredibly helpful all along the way. I and the steering committee co-chairs would be happy to discuss the plan here today. One of the reasons why I'm here is Commissioner Benjamin's question on Monday. So since we were involved in the formation of that budget, I can give a little bit of a backstory. The itemized budget is available in the plan if you want to look at how we broke it down, but I'll just go ahead and speak to 2 issues that is sort of the reason for that, one of which Deputy Commissioner Brown already kind of addressed. But I'll go ahead and read my statement here. So first, the largest part of our administrative costs are staffing. The competitive wage and benefits package for a full-time executive director is essential for any effective bid. Administrative overhead is perhaps a bit of a misnomer for this individual's salary, who will be doing much of the work of the bid. We envision this person will be out on the streets, coordinating with the businesses, liaising with city agencies, and our community has felt disconnected from the vibrancy of the city, and the executive director's responsibility will be to raise the profile of the district. Based on our assessment of community needs, the services needed in our proposed bid are staff intensive. The community wants advocacy and liaison support with our city agencies, community-led safety initiatives utilizing block captains and outreach workers rather than the traditional security company is another example of how we really see staffing as the main piece. Our neighborhood has been historically underserved, and a significant reason for bid development is to have a stronger voice in borough and citywide affairs. And the other reason is the one that Commissioner Brown referenced, just that it's a startup bid, and we wanted to structure it so that it could be completely independent. Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation has been part of helping to facilitate the process, and we could potentially incubate it if necessary. But we wanted to write the budget so that they would have the resources that if they chose to start up a completely new facility, new, rent and furniture and all of that stuff. So all of that is budgeted in that first year. So that was the intent, is that they would have the resources to, if they wanted to be completely independent and not be housed within Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation. And so that's the sort of the thinking behind it, is those startup costs, and hopefully that could be adjusted moving forward after that. So be happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hirschberger. Commissioner Benjamin has a question for you.
Also, $150,000. How much is OTPS and how much is PS?
So I have the itemized budget here. It's 161,000, right? So right. So the salary of the executive director is at 70,000 plus the fringe package, so that gets up close to 100. And then rent is 2,500 a month. So that's the other biggest item. And then furniture costs, setting up accounting, all of that. And then let's see. Setting up the postage, some of those other support items. But really, that executive director, I would argue, that is not really an administrative position as much as it is a direct service position, because it's the only full-time staff, and she'll be the one, or he be the one, engaging in the businesses and coordinating. And a lot of the initiatives are not contracted out in the way that normally bids do it. So we really envision more of a community-led approach, where local community members would be hired and do some of that security work and some of the sanitation work. And so there's working with those teams and making that happen. So it's kind of our whole character is not to be just, not to saying the board couldn't decide to contract out. That's not under my responsibility to make that decision, but we feel that most of that administrative is actually considered direct service.
Okay, because it doesn't seem like out of the administrative expenses, you're talking about basically $130,000 between the executive director and rent.
Correct.
Which only leaves a pretty small sum. Are you assuming that the sanitation, getting workers from the community, is going to be with a not-for-profit who would not charge, or are you assuming that people are going to volunteer? So how is that factored in here?
There is a sanitation section, right?
Right.
So the way we would envision is that the executive director would supervise that sanitation work. And so if the board decides to hire local people and do sanitation work with local residents, then those salaries would come out of the sanitation section on the budget, but the executive director's salary would come out of the administration section, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to make the case that the administrator is really doing, will be out there probably picking up trash herself too a little bit. It's character of the committee. It's very grassroots, and the way we envisioned it to happen.
Okay.
And does that answer your question? I don't know.
It does. As I said before, I know you were there, that it just seems like I understand what Deputy Commissioner Brown said, that you're a startup bid, and so there are higher costs, but it seems like the executive director is the biggest cost within and that's not a startup cost. That's going to be an ongoing cost.
Correct.
So if you want to have other services and they want to expand to other businesses, I assume in years to come, the budget will get bigger.
Potentially, but.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Sorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here, and thank you very much for the important work that your organization does in New York City. I wanted to ask you, I wanted to say first that I think it's really important that a community development corporation is engaged in this process, and I want to understand a little bit how you see the potential here to not just increase economic development, but create local wealth. Right. And so, I want to understand, where do you see the opportunities longer term in terms of supporting supporting local businesses, while at the same time creating local employment and so forth? And so I have two questions. The first question is, do you have any data, or can you share with us any insight in terms of what types of businesses are we talking about I know that in the materials that we got some land use information that tells us that there's at least a couple industrial areas in there. But I wanted to sort of like hear from your perspective, you know, what does this business community consist of? How many of them employ people from the community? As a first step, if you have a map of this information, would be fantastic. And then the second question, so you can hear about it too, while you think about the response for the first one, is that, you know, I understand the important contribution of the bid, but I also just want to understand how you think about sort of what this particular approach, or how could this particular approach connect with some of the more progressive policies that I know groups like yours have been engaging in, like, for example, thinking about community land trusts or other types of, tools from the solidarity kind of like economy that can connect, that are not mutually exclusive, but I haven't heard mentioned yet.
So the first question, the character of the neighborhood is, again, in the plan, but it's 326 small businesses, emphasis on small. I'll reference the commercial district needs assessment that was done right at the beginning of this process. We did it in, I think it was 2016, maybe, something like that. So the average size of a business, I think it was don't quote me, like 4.3 employees, maybe, something like that. So it's very, very small businesses, laundromats, bodegas, multi-service organizations. Food service is the largest sector, and that's when you combine bodegas and limited service restaurants and grocery stores. And so it's very much a service sector. It doesn't have an industrial character. May have a lot or two of industrial, but it's really direct service. So one of the things, and this kind of bleeds into your second question, which I think is a really important one, as Cypress Hills LDC, with our values and our reason for getting into this, one of the things that we saw with the bid structure is that there's a high percentage of ownership in the area. And by ownership, I mean like our chairs, which we'll speak in a second, really are building their dreams and an opportunity to create wealth, that you mentioned. And so we just embarked on this saying, do merchants that are our constituents want this? and we were as an organization, we were not taking a position initially because we work for the community. It's who we are. So when we saw the overwhelming support, we have over 300 ballots, I think it is, for it, and 1 or 2 against. So that's where we saw this as an appropriate strategy for our community, which has been disenfranchised over the years, and as an opportunity to create wealth, like you mentioned, for small businesses, very small businesses, immigrant-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. And, to mention the CLT, we're actually incubating a CLT as well. So we're not at all, we're very invested in that as well. So I think as an organization, we work for the community, so whatever the community wants, we want to do.
Thank you very much for that. One quick follow-up question. Do you mind sharing with us sort of like what is your board composed of? How many board members live in the neighborhood and so forth?
So for many years, 100% of the board was residents or business owners. Now we've got to a majority of the board is residents or business owners. So we literally work for the community, and we always have. We've gone to the majority just because we wanted to get some additional expertise onto the board, but we've always been majority residents and/or people who work in the neighborhood.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And if you can share that map,
sure.
Unless I missed it in the materials, it would be great. Thank you.
Sure. And just to clarify, map, you mean the map of the district,
businesses,
or
the businesses,
like the character of the businesses?
Yeah. Do you have an inventory of the businesses that?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hirschberger. Next up is Chief Samser, and then Juan Diaz.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for hearing us. My name is Chief Samser. I'm a property owner, resident, and a citizen on the Fulton Street corridor. My parents came to the country in 1976 from our home country of Guyana, seeking a better future in the land of the great opportunities. We later came in the country in 1981, which I attended elementary school, junior high school. And as my parents worked in the neighborhood, they have a coffee shop, we grew in the neighborhood. I invested in the neighborhood after graduating from high school. I bought my first property on Fulton Street, and it expanded to many other properties. My kids grew up in the neighborhood and still reside in the neighborhood. Fulton Street has changed over the years, from in the 80s, the 90s, and so forth. So as I got old enough after graduation and investing in the neighborhood, I decided to join the Cypress Hills Local Development on the Merchant Association. And then we decided, you know what, we need a Fulton Street bid like what they have in many other neighborhoods. So this is where the passion came about, and I joined up, and I've been with the Fulton Street bid from the inception. Going up and down Fulton Street, you'll see all the vacant stores, the garbage, the petty crimes, and so forth that exist in the corridor. So this is one of the passions that I have for the Fulton Street bid. I owned 8 buildings within the Fulton Street district, 5 of them being on the corridor. I operate 2 retail establishments, and we employed approximately 12 individuals. Approximately 7 of them lived in the Cypress Hills area. So this is something personal for me, and I appreciate you guys hearing my testimony. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being here with us and for sharing that story. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's call up Juan Diaz, and while he comes to the podium, I will just welcome anybody else who wants to be heard on calendar 26. Now's the time. Mr. Diaz, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to me. So my name is Juan Diaz. I'm a co-chair along Chisholm here. Like him, I'm also an immigrant. Very much everything has been said, so very little is to be said by the previous speaker. The only thing that I can add is that the corridor has 377 property, of which 325 are commercial, and then 325 has what we call commercial tenant. The corridor the boundaries are from Van Sicken Avenue to Elder Lane. That's a total of about 26 blocks. So the need, so basically through phone calls, which we make over 2,000, and letters, we through investigation, we determined that there are very much 5 priorities in the community. Sanitation is one of them, so which security is another one of them, okay, and so beautification as well as marketing and economic development. So in the steering committee, we are, like it was probably said before, there are eight property owners, 4 business owners, also residential, and I am a property owner as well, along with Chisholm Sale. So, something that I want to add is that early 1980, late 1970, I was a tenant at 2980 Fulton Street. I remember living on the 2nd floor. So that means that I've been in that corridor for a long time. I remember opening up a business, Excel Video Communication at 2944 Fulton Street. That was back then during Blockbuster time. And let me tell you, between that time and now, the difference is huge. The evolution on the Fulton corridor is tremendous. So you go over there, you see that it's very busy. You see that people are coming in. You see that people don't want to go out. The thing is that we have gotten better, by the years, but that doesn't mean that we have reached our full potential. The Fulton, the bid that we're proposing, I think will culminate what we're trying to accomplish our property owners and our business owners. Also, my wife also had a business in Fulton, and I had a business as well. And the business owner and property owner very much, I know property owner that has been there for 40 years. We have property owner that has been there for a couple of years. So obviously we have a mix that to me is tremendous, a combination of old ones and new ones. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. There is anything that I can add. I think that I'm very happy to be here, and I really thank you a lot for your attention.
We're very happy you're here too. Thank you, and I want to thank you both for all of your efforts on the steering committee. We know how much work that is to survey the businesses, to think about the future of the neighborhood, and to pull it all together. So thank you for all of that work. I don't see anybody else wishing to testify on calendar number 26. So I will close the hearing now on this item, and we're going to open the hearing on the next item of the day. Madam Secretary, tell us what that is.
For the Bronx, calendar numbers 27 and 28, Melrose Concourse NCP. CD3, calendar number 27, C240174 HAX. Calendar number 28, C240175 PQX. Public hearing in the matter of applications for a UDAP designation, project approval, disposition of city-owned property, and an acquisition concerning Melrose Concourse NCP.
Great. Thank you very much. On behalf of the applicant team, we have Michael Gabori, Stephen Dubb, Andrea Wong, Adam Beckerman, Alice Friedman, and Winifred Campbell. For 10 minutes, welcome.
Thank you. The presentation. Oh, thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to present to you today on the Melrose Concourse NCP project. I am Adam Beckerman, a senior planner at the Department of Housing Preservation and Development. I'm joined today by my HPD colleagues and the development team. We are seeking land use actions today to facilitate the construction of approximately 71 affordable rental units and 1 supers unit to be built over 3 vacant infill sites located in the Morrisania and Claremont neighborhoods of the Bronx. The cluster went through HPD's NIHOPS NCP request for qualifications, which identified hard-to-develop city-owned infill sites and matched them with qualified development teams. The current team was designated in 2018. Development team today is Settlement Housing Fund, Beechwood Organization, and ESKW Architects, who all have extensive experience building affordable housing in the Bronx. To facilitate the project, HPD is requesting the following land use actions: designation of an urban development action area, approval of the urban development action area project, approval of the reacquisition of block 2389 lot 47, and approval of the disposition of city-owned property. The project was originally certified on November 27th and has since received approval from Bronx Community Board 3 on January 23rd and approval with modifications from the Bronx Borough President on February 23rd. I will now hand it over to Michael Gabri from Settlement Housing Fund to speak more about the project. Michael should be online.
Michael, you should be able to unmute in Zoom.
Great. Hold on one second. Thank you, Adam. And hello, my name is Michael Gabri. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development at Settlement Housing Fund. We are a nonprofit organization that develops and is the long-term owner of high-quality affordable housing in New York City. We've been doing this work since 1969. We currently own approximately 40 buildings totaling about 2,000 units in New York City, with concentrations of housing and programs in the Mount Eden section of the Bronx, the Lower East Side in Manhattan, Harlem, and the Crown Heights neighborhood of Brooklyn. Our partner and general contractor on this project is the Beechwood Organization. They've developed over 8,000 homes in New York City, Long Island, Saratoga County, and North Carolina. On this project, we've worked closely with our architect, ESKW, to maximize the number of units and create a diverse mix of unit sizes, including studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedrooms. There'll be 71 affordable units plus a supers unit. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. Melrose Concourse will be affordable to households and individuals at a range of income levels between 30% AMI and 80% AMI. Approximately 85% of all the units will be affordable to households earning up to 60% AMI. There'll be 23 units for low-income seniors. 8 units will be set aside for formerly homeless seniors. We'll be applying for project-based Section 8 vouchers for these units. Now I'll turn the presentation over to Andrea Wong with ESKW Architects to talk in detail about the proposed buildings.
Thank you, Michael. All right. I'm seeing one slide on the screen and a different one on the main screen. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. We'll try this. Okay, so I'll start with site number 1, Claremont Parkway. This is a 404 Claremont Parkway. If you can see here that this is a trapezoidal shaped site that tapers towards the back. It's about 2,800 square feet. It's located on Claremont Parkway, which is a wide street. On the east side is a single-story charter school, and on the west side is a low-rise residential building with a business at the ground floor. We have a prominent view of Claremont Park at the end of the street. And a little bit about the design. This is a 4-story building with 8 apartments, comprising of 2 one-bedroom apartments and 6 two-bedroom apartments above. A little bit about the actual design. Highlighted building amenities include a laundry room, a recreational roof terrace, and a landscaped rear yard for all tenants to use. In terms of building massing, it is broken down into 3 parts. And there's a day-lit central stair and apartments on both sides. We are using natural materials such as clay brick and natural wood accents, and there are generous planters at the ground floor that provide a buffer between the street and the apartments. It also relates back to the park at the end of the street. We move on to the second site, 1169 Washington Avenue. This is a long and narrow site, 5,800 square feet roughly in the Morrisania neighborhood. It's located on Washington Avenue, which is a busy and more densely developed street. Surrounding us here are multifamily residential buildings with small shops at the ground floor. And the proposed building here is 9 stories, 34 apartments, 12 are studios, including 6 earmarked for seniors, 14 one-bedrooms, including another 6 for seniors, and 8 two-bedrooms. Highlighted building amenities are, again, a fully landscaped rear yard, a community room, and an office for tenant services. As for the design, you can see here we've broken down the proposed building into 2 parts. Within the skinnier volumes, we have brick piers that are textured to accentuate the verticality here. This brick detailing to us is a contemporary take on the ornamentation that is present on some of the historical buildings nearby. And our proposed textured brick continues all the way down to grade so that passersby can experience it. Again, we have landscape between the building and the street line serving as a buffer. And lastly, the third site at 12 Gouverneur Place. This site is 4,900 square feet, and it's located just south of the previous building that we just looked at. It's surrounded by low-rise, small industrial, commercial buildings, some empty car parks, and immediately to our west side is a fairly new multifamily residential building. So the proposed building is 9 stories, 30 apartments. Within that, 7 studios, of which 3 are for seniors, 16 one-bedrooms, 8 of which are for seniors, and 6 two-bedrooms. There's also the supers unit, which is another 2-bedroom. Highlighted building amenities here are, again, a fully landscaped rear yard, a community room, a gym, and as you can see in this image at the top, we have an 8th floor recreational terrace for all tenants to use. In terms of facade design, again, you see that it's the clay brick with some natural wood accents, and this is to link all of 3 buildings together as they are being developed concurrently. I will now turn it back to Michael.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Next slide, please. Oh, great. So in summary, we're very proud that this is a nonprofit-led project. We're excited to be partnering with the Beechwood organization. We're thrilled to be developing these long, vacant, and underutilized lots, building on our already existing presence and legacy in the Bronx. Though these lots are small, we've worked carefully to introduce a project that maximizes the number of affordable units and also provides a mix of unit sizes. And most importantly, the project responds intentionally to the needs of the neighborhood and New York City. It provides homes for seniors, homes for low-income households and individuals, and also for formerly homeless seniors. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much. I have questions from Commissioner Osorio and Commissioner Goodrich.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to start by saying that I think the design is very high quality. I really appreciate the comments that you made in terms of the massing on the Claremont property, but also in terms of the decisions around materials. The proportions are well thought out. I think it's a really interesting proposal in that regard. But specifically the massing, I think is really working really well. I have 2 quick questions. One was just in general, I wanted to ask if you can share your response to some of the comments that you received in terms of the public process, and specifically, I wanted to understand how has the community been involved in that regard. So I'm wondering if you can share a little bit, sort of like, how has it been? Who has been involved? I know that there's a lot of grassroots housing related organizations in this area, and so I just want to understand a little bit who has been part of that conversation.
I'll start off with that. We've gone to Community Board 3 a few times, and I also know we've presented to the borough president and take her comments into consideration on things like size, and we'll see where we have flexibility. I think we've definitely worked, to consider, more family units in this project. So having more 2-bedrooms, and also thinking through things like design. So like having alcoves in some of the studios to make them feel more like 1-bedrooms, because I know some of the comment was on the number of studios. So we've definitely been part of that process. I don't know, Michael, if you want to add anything to that.
That covers it. Thank you, Adam.
But just sorry, go ahead. Sorry, were you going to say something else?
I think that was it.
Okay, I just to clarify, so you are considering combining some of the studios as per the recommendations, or you're in the process of that? Can you clarify that?
I think we have to just see where we have flexibility. Some things are set in stone, some things we have more flexibility, so we just have to look a little bit further into that.
Okay, great, thank you. And then just really quickly, the other question that I have is, can you say something about the energy performance of the buildings? What are some of the provisions in place? Are you considering any? I know that you've talked about green roofs or terrace uses, yes. Public uses of the roof. But are there any actual sustainability measures up there? And specifically, are there any provisions to increase creation of renewals, et cetera?
So all 3 buildings will comply with the 2020 Enterprise Green Communities checklist. We are all 3 are all electric buildings for heating and cooling. We looked at the feasibility for solar here, but unfortunately, because these sites are so small, it was not feasible. But in terms of resiliency, I would like to say that we have backup power generators on the 2 taller buildings, especially because there will be seniors in those buildings.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And again, I continue to compliment your design. It's the reason why I ask about solar specifically, and I'm excited. Well, I'm glad to hear that you've considered it, is that this is the perfect, in my mind, sort of like recipe for the ultra low energy performing buildings that carbon neutrality introduced. So this, in my mind, is the right scale. Hopefully, you can work with the city to identify how to access those incentives and go one extra step. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Goodridge.
I have some questions about the, my computer, about the AMI breakdown. Most of them are for higher income. Oh, yes, here we are. Okay, so 12 are for 30% AMI, and the rest are obviously for higher, but most of them are for 60% AMI, and I'm a bit concerned about that for seniors. There's so many statistics that show that a lot of seniors just cannot even afford just like, just, I shouldn't even say basic rent. The basic rent is very high in New York. I think there's this sort of sentiment that seniors are getting a pension, which pensions don't even exist for a lot of jobs today. But the reality is that a lot of seniors are a lot lower income than we had even 2 decades ago. So I'm a bit concerned about the higher AMI. So I'll start there.
Yeah, I can speak to you in a second. Actually, Michael, do you have any initial thoughts you want to add to?
Yes, I understand your sentiments, and one of the things what we've worked with HPD is to ensure that at least 8 of the senior units will have project-based Section 8, which will allow for deeper affordability on those units. And then more broadly, so the senior units, you're right, we do have units that go up to 60% AMI, but the senior units themselves are set at 30% AMI and 40% AMI. So we have worked diligently to bring those down to the lower tiers. And certainly, we will work as an organization to help facilitate folks. So if, for example, they aren't included with the project-based Section 8, that we would help be able to facilitate them potentially getting tenant-based subsidy.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
And then my second question is regarding the bedroom sizes. We often get this sort of senior housing where there's a bunch of studios, and I think, speaking of sentiment, a lot of the sentiment is that, well, they'll be alone and they need a smaller size. I don't find that particularly to be true, at least in my work. Honestly, to be quite frank, I don't know any senior that wants to live in a small space. So I guess my question is also about the breakdown of the bedroom sizes. I'll also note that there was a recent article about this in Gothamist, where about 70% of the subsidized units that New York City has been building are studios and 1-bedrooms. So overall, even apart from the senior part, just the breakdown of how many studios and 1-bedrooms we're building as opposed to 2-bedrooms and 3-bedrooms is a problem. So I wanted to ask that, what is the thought process about including so many studios?
You want me to take that question, or Andrea, do you want to respond? I'm happy to talk a little bit, because these are great questions. I mean, I can talk more broadly that I believe overall we've included roughly 29% of the overall project to be 2-bedroom apartments. To your point about the smaller units for the seniors, again, that's well, the point is well taken. We've worked diligently with our architect to include an alcove space. So really, these are almost like, I would say, they offer more space. They're larger units with the alcove space. I really think it helps to address that. And again, it's the difficulty is that because these sites are very constrained in terms of size, it's that balance between trying to maximize units, sort of address all of these tensions. And I really think we've done, particularly ESKW has done a very thoughtful job to try to address all of these concerns. I don't know, Andrea, if you want to chime in more, or Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I think that's all right, and that's all. I'll just add a couple of numbers here that for the senior-specific units, of all the ones that are reserved for seniors, actually most are they are either real one-bedrooms or alcove studios, and really there are only 3 out of the total senior units that don't have alcoves. The alcove studios that we're talking about are actually around 470 square feet, so those are pretty generous.
An alcove studio is what, has a terrace?
No, it has like a nook that would fit another bed for a caretaker, for example.
Okay, all right, I just Googled it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions from the panel here, and I do not see members of the public here to testify on this item, but I am going to confirm that fact before we close the hearing. Madam Secretary, I am correct. Okay, and with that, I'll close the hearing on calendar number 2728 and ask you, Madam Secretary, what is left for us on the agenda today?
There is no other business before the Commission, Chair Garodnick, but I do have some public information to share. For those of you who are unable to or did not wish to testify, you can submit written testimony online by selecting this hearing on the upcoming meetings page of the NYC Engage portal, through DCP's website, or by mailing your comments to City Planning Commission Calendar Information Office, 120 Broadway, 31st floor, New York, 10271.
Great. Well, thank you for that. To the members of the Commission, thank you very much for your time, attention. We did some big things here today, of course. And with that, we are adjourned. It is 12:16.
Thank you. Have a good day.